Hello everybody, today I have the pleasure to propose to you this key 74 entitled the egregores, the backstage of life. Well, this is the second video for which in the first video we spent a little bit of time to establish some analogy, parallels, metaphor regarding this very crucial and existential question of egregores. So, to make it short, to re-explain briefly, to summarize what is an egregore concretely is a thought forms. Okay, what does it mean? It means is a kind of energies, okay, which are the fruits of individual intellectual dimension and also feelings. Okay, to make it short, it is like if individually people were thinking or feeling something regarding a topic, and then they're gonna activate, they're gonna nourish a egregore. This egregore by return will feed them back and also will nourish and feed other people who are neutral, who are independent. Okay, so it's a question of resonance. Okay, individually we feed the egregores, but vice versa, the egregores feed us. Okay, that's the point. There is reciprocity, a resonance, as above, so below, as below, so above. This is, let's say, this principle. Let's continue a little bit regarding technologies. And why I'm talking about that is because I love to do parallels with technologies, because I can consider this is double edge. Double edge means that it's like a knife. You can kill someone and it can be useful for surviving or arts and craft and so on and so forth. Okay, it doesn't depends. I mean, it depends on the using. It depends on the user. Okay, I think it's obvious. Technologies are the same, and in a certain extent, helping us, but also enslave us as well. Okay, more and more we are, lazier and lazier due to some technologies. Okay, some abilities that we had in the past, much more, and they are affecting our abilities. For example, handwritings. Personally, I'm feeling it. I'm losing it. A lot of people like this, probably in the future. When I see for English, I'm not an English speaker, but my native language in French, I see how it's tortured. So many people don't master anymore orthograph. Okay, I know that French grammar is quite complicated. It's matter of fact, but in the past it was not like this at all. So, beyond of that, I think technology prepares us for recovering as well some abilities, preparing us for, let's say, a consciousness. What do I mean? Let's take some examples. The metaverse, for instance, I think it is okay. So on the negative part is the movie from Spielberg. Okay, one player, I don't remember anymore. Anyway, you can find it easily. It's the last movie he produced. So it's like a fiction. It's like the future, and people have a shitty life, and they live in containers. Okay, and with Oculus. They can project in metaverse, okay, in parallel world. So it works super well, okay. So I'm afraid about that, because in the future, if exclusively life is here, come on, life is in nature, in food, in here, let's say, but we can use differently. We can also use, I think, it can be for collective and thinking. And the consciousness, it can be a preparation for the fifth dimension, like something more ethereal, like less tangible, and so on. So it can be positive for this preparation. But if we use with a good dosing, or if we are not completely addicted to that, if we is not to run away, if it's not to flee, to escape the reality because we don't like reality. It's like some people, they are only on spirituality because they hate life in general. And spirituality is just a springboard to embrace life and to be in harmony. Okay, so I think that's and actually I'm not the only one to feel that, and that's why it's linked to egregores. I would compare egregores with hashtag. Okay, hashtag me too and so on. Okay, it's like a keyword which is just a word for which there is a topic, a concept, which is spread, and also provocating reaction, positively, negatively, and also by adhesion or by reject. That's the point. Okay, so when I type on my videos some keywords, of course I see 10,000K, 10 million and so on for special words. Personally, I don't use them, I mean, just for attracting people, and if I'm not talking about it, of course. But this is interesting. Why? Because there is, an hashtag would be as an egregore. You know, Rudolf Steiner, very brilliant person, characters, unknown, unfortunately, he reused the principle from the mysticism from India, Hinduism, which is the concept of Ahriman. Ahriman, for him, Steiner, it would be a kind of egregores present in all technology. Positively, negatively, but more negatively, okay? But having also a potential to readapt technology. You know, there is a vain battle between some people, they are pro transhumanism and against. Pacemaker is transhumanism. Personally, of course, I don't want a sheep here to become a sheep. Sheep. Okay, you understood. Of course, but yeah, pacemaker. I mean, some technologies. But here it is an example. Internet and so on is not transhumanism. I do agree, but some technologies are positive. It depends on the user and the using. But let's come back on the notion of hashtag egregores. Okay, so hashtag me too, for example. Hashtag, I don't know, it's like the rate of, you know, the visit rate of a website, okay, the suggestions regarding your history, your own researches, and regarding the load of interest for a topic, okay, for which it is viral most of the time. What does it mean? It means the algorithm boosts and are doing through the hashtag exactly the same principle than an egregore, okay? A news is not necessarily something extremely important, but because everybody is rushing at it, other people rush at them, okay? Like newspaper, if for example, I don't know, New York Times, and I don't know, Guardians and so on, all of them, they really let's say a news, even if it's in significance, other people need also to do it. What do I try to explain? There is offer and demand. I'm not saying that the journalists and so on, they just follow also the demands, okay? So it's the same principle that some books, they are perceived as excellence because they are bestsellers. So if they are bestsellers, it means they are best and they have good sales. I know it's obvious what I'm saying, but it doesn't affect the quality of it. You know, it's like popular music. It doesn't mean that it is excellent, but as it is popular, it's trendy to like it. It's like another example, the author of Harry Potter. Okay, she has been rejected for a lot of edition companies, okay, saying it was shit, it was badly written and so on and so forth. Now she's one of the greatest bestseller in the world, so apparently she was not that bad. Recently she did an experience. She experimented the fact to write a book anonymously, okay? And she had exactly the same results. So, and people criticize even her way of writing and so on. So, you know what I mean? So it's exactly the same than fashion, and I work in fashion. I always say it in the past, it's fashion because a guy or some maison de couture, a maison de couture say, oh, it's going to be the trend next year, so everybody wants to be hype, follow as goats, you know? So that's really important. Why? Because it's linked as well to a notion of snowball effects and the discernment, referring to the key 46, discernment, lucidity, and so on. This is extremely important. Why? Because once again, we are in the era, in the age of choice. Okay, so important, not important. Are we polluted by bad information, creating anxiety, reducing our vibration, and so on and so forth? Okay, you know, if it's important or not, just very insignificant story. It was in May. Okay, personally, I love football. All right. Okay, nobody's perfect. No, I'm aware also of the fact that it's just a game. But, okay, I'm a part of it, and I can consider that it's a bit ridiculous just to kick, and just at the end to generate so many millions, billions, and so on. But anyway, Mbappé, the great French player from PSG, is announced for 1 month in May, staying, living, going to Real de Madrid and so on, staying to PSG and so on. So they pissed us off, sorry, to be vulgar, 1 month regarding that. And this special nights, during 2 hours on the medias, they were focusing. In France, at the same period of time, at the same hours, there was the final of the Champions League. Okay, but feminine. So nobody care about that, which is ridiculous, because normally it's a collective game. So we are not focusing on just a guy. Secondly, this is just a non-transferred with billions and, I mean, exaggerate, millions and millions. Okay, and even in France, because the final was Lions versus so the French team versus Barcelona. Okay, so, and Lyons was leading 3-0, and they won at the end 3-1. Almost nobody talk about that, because it was feminine, and because it was eclipsed by Mbappé. And this is just a big joke, you understand? So it's not important thing, but because there is offer and demand. At this exactly period of time, it was exactly another thing. In Pakistan, there was floodings and so on. Nobody talk about that. 50 millions of inhabitants in Pakistan, okay, which is the equivalent of the whole population in South Korea, is 2/3 of France, is almost 2/3 as well, 70% of Britain, and so on, okay? 50 million inhabitants are kicked out of their native land, and nobody talk about that. Okay, there is many examples like this. So that's why, but once again, I'm not criticizing the medias, I'm just saying that it is offer and demand. Like egregores, it's up to us to nourish, to feed, okay, what we want, the energy we want, the positive one, the pragmatic, a new golden age, or just low vibration, and so on and so forth. I can use another metaphor, is the notion of video games. You know, for instance, the video games is just a question, like in general in IT, computer. This is just a binary system, 0, 0, 01, 01, 01, and so on, combination like this. Okay, so coding is just inserting some data and so on. Okay, numbers. Plato said all the life is numbers, for which I would precise all life is data for me. But anyway, there is hidden part, and that's why for me these data are similar to egregores. Okay, so so you don't see the coding, of course. So thanks to that, there is a retranscription of images and potential gesture of, I don't know, tennis match and or, I don't know, boxing match and so on and so forth. So you have the potentiality to do many things, okay, like kicking or not, or I don't know, to embrace the ref, or you know, like craziness like this. We can consider the creator of the game create most of the gesture, maybe some of them he didn't. Okay, so for me, the coding would be a metaphor of this egregores, and the free will would be the potential to do something or not. If you kiss the ref or you kick the ref, maybe you have the capacity to do it within the game, but it's not the objective of the game. Okay, so it does make sense. Artificial intelligence becomes more and more independent, which is a bit scary. And this is quite recent, 2 months ago. My father is a great scientist in artificial intelligence, doctor, professor, emerit, now is retired. But he's a little bit scared of this evolution because he say that it's a little bit in free will, W-H-E-E-L, okay? In the sense of who's mastering now? Who is controlling? Is a little bit like Frankenstein. This is a bit concerning, let's say. And what I try to say through that is the fact that, you know, for this notion of artificial intelligence, it can be also a metaphor of the egregores, and some egregores, some energies, some entities could, let's say, cross and use these technologies for a certain agenda, in a certain extent. I'm not talking about human people. I'm talking about egregores with a certain autonomy. I invite you to think about that. You know, it's like, you know, the suggestion of your text message, okay? You start to write the beginning of a word and so on, and they suggest you. This almost exists for the suggestion, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm afraid about that in the future, about suggestion of your mind, for example. Imagine, because it would be the fact that as there is a lot of history and we consider that they never fade and so on, it would be like a jail. We would be trapped in a certain loop of similar thinking. So I invite you to think about that. But the research or search engines, okay, like Google and so on, they are much more efficient today than the beginning or 10 years ago, okay, because they're accumulating, gathering a lot of data and so on. So by the history, they are more precise than before. You know that Facebook knows you more than your family. Okay, I'm not saying Mr. Facebook. There is no Mr. Facebook behind. There is artificial intelligence, which could be a kind of egregore as well. I invite you to think further. Simulacrum 3. Simulacrum 3 is a very interesting SF book, science fiction books in 60s, which inspired Matrix, and which is a guy working on the simulation, and he realized he's also in the simulation. So you're gonna think it's completely crazy. It's SF. Yeah, I do agree. It's SF. But the simulation, the simulation theory exists since 2013, thanks to the Swedish Nick Bostrom, and Elon Musk say there is 99% of chance that we are in a simulation. So you're gonna think it's crazy. Personally, I always say that, I say that by 2015, that I was programmed in this simulation not to believe in it, okay? What wise. But you know, this fantasy, this notion of the fact is old as well. You have Life is a Dream from Pedro Calderón de la Barca, or you have also the myth of the cave from Plato, which is, to make it short, people are, let's say, unchained to the wall, and they see some shadows because there is puppets, but they cannot see, and they just see shadows, and they think reality is just the shadows. And one guy is liberated. He goes outside and he realizes the blue sky and so on. And he comes back. When he comes back, he tries to explain that to his friends and so on. And people don't believe him. Some people laugh, and some others, they want to kill him. So the key question will be that: are we in a kind of dream for which one day, or when we die, we will open our eyes to see, to realize with real eyes the real eyes and so on of the Maya that we call among the Hindus. You know, let's go further. As a professor in business, in the business school for my MBA programs, I used to do for 10 years a simulation, okay, a business game that I made by my own. So it means that I embody, okay, so I'm a consultant for the students, and also the game is, you have a project of sourcing, so you have a project, a demand from a client, and you have negotiation with suppliers and so on, logistic partners. So there is 6 actors, clients, 3 factories, and 2 forwarders, and I embody the 6 ones. So sometimes there is 6 groups, okay, of 4 people, for instance. And because with the history, I took all the emails I did in the past, maybe 100, and I don't have anything to do now. Why? Because it's like if I had all potential answers and demands from the students. You know, it's very similar to the theory of the simulation. So, to make it short, for the simulation, simulacron 3 is like SimCity, okay? But anyway, so you're gonna see, think, it's crazy and so on. It's there is one thing you have to know is Aladdin. Nothing to see with 1000 Nights, of course not, the poems from Persia. No, not at all. Aladdin is a simulator, okay, from the company BlackRock, and I invite you to do some research by your own on internet. So concretely, what is it? They are gathering some data from Facebook, from Google, from many places, and by assembling with algorithm and so on, quantic computers, they can compile and almost to predict some trends, and especially for stock markets. The problem of that is that they have 2 functions. They are consultants, they are doing consulting, and in parallel, they are investors. They are richer than the GDP of United States, which is the first country in the world. So imagine the lots, what's in their hands. So thanks to the simulator. It's not a legend. I invite you to check. It's not conspiracy. It's not fake news. It's real. It's official, and it's caring for everybody because it's kind of Frankenstein, and it's very dangerous because if the computers say, the trend will be I don't know, to invest on that, on weapons, for example, and then everybody follow. On the other way around, if people are investing in recycling things, in green stuff and so on, it's more positive. But it's like, it's not forecast. It's not weather forecast. It's like if I'm Elon Musk and I say, okay, tomorrow, the bitcoins will collapse. Bitcoins will collapse because people will follow. Will be scared about that. Okay, a rumor, as it was the case in 1929 in States. So that's why it's really, really interesting and scaring as well. So the notion of egregores are also potentially there. I have, let's say, we're gonna, lift some question. Is the number of egregores changing? Basically, normally not, because originally there is a certain amount, but I think they are evolving as well. So I would say originally, for the purist, yes, and personally, I really think they are evolving and there are new ones as well. Like if you have different ingredients and you can do new recipes, or you are a DG and you are assembling different sounds and not from scratch, but at the end you have another results. How many people do we need to create a new egregore? I would say just one person. Okay, you know, it's if the person is convinced, okay, in its own sphere of consciousness, it becomes reality. And then after that, if people are just adhering to his own ideas, he has more load and more energy and so on, and they create an egregore and so on. By the proof, if you see Buddha, if you see Jesus, if you see Mani, if you see Muhammad, and so on and so far. Originally they were one person, okay? So the key question there, were the prophets, known or unknown, carried, let's say, by egregores? I would say yes. I would say that they have been influenced, supported by the egregores, and maybe the embodies some egregores as well. This is what we could say in the future in the next video. This is the principle of the Book of Enoch, for which is explained, Enoch is explained through a dream or astral travel, the mysteries of universe, okay, the universal library, and so on. This is what I experienced, and I depicted in the books in English for free. In the book Sage Passage, for which I explain the fact that I live almost the same experience that I had out-of-body experience, and the fact that during 24 hours I really had the feeling to be tapped through the mysteries like the golden number, like experience of space-time and so on. And I could see like life with different screens, okay, compile, and with the whole scenarios, and in a sense that all the characters were the creator and the consciousness, okay? So, and I was revealed about the egregores and so on and so forth. But within this book, the Book of Henoch, and I will talk about this in the next video, is exactly almost what it is explained in the book Sage Passage Utopia. The question, but I think I already replied partially, do the egregores feed us or do we feed them? Okay, so it's chicken and egg. I think that initially egregores shaped mankind, and by returns, passively or actively, by adhering, by rejecting, and or by creating by the mind new ideas, new concept, new paradigm, individuals create, co-create, influence, make evolving the egregores, and these egregores evolving them, okay, and by influence, by by reciprocity, they impact, their influence, they nourish and other people, they are neutral, they are passive, and so on and so forth. So I would say yes, both mutually are influencing individuals and egregores. It's chicken and egg. I repeat myself voluntarily. Do egregores have autonomy? Great question. So I would not answer, but probably indirectly. And we will do a link with something else. An autonomy, consciousness, okay? So, you know, the great wall, the great all, okay, the absolute, God, and so on, whatever, the name, it's always the same image I use all the time, okay? So, imagine you have a painting, okay? You have a painting and you have a characters, Okay, you are the painter, you are the painting, you are the characters, the landscape, and so on. Okay, if you are completely the face in it, you don't see anything, right? So you need to step backwards, okay, to separate, to take a certain distance, to admire your masterpiece, right? So that's why the principle of the existence, to exist in Latin means literally to separate, to detach, to fragments, and so on. Okay, so this is the principle of in the Jewish mysticism, is the principle of Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum, what is it? It is the contraction of the absolute, the everything, okay, God, on itself, himself, oneself, okay, and then to create the existing and the not existing, okay, so the form and the formless, okay, so this is the separation between, to separate light and darkness. If you don't have darkness, you cannot highlight light, okay, that's the same principle. So if you understand properly what I tried to tell you, and if egregores have a consciousness, I try to reply and directly through God, and I would say that's this is what I say many times in the past, and this is very beautiful. It's coming from a Muslim hadith saying the following, not exactly, but it's God expressing himself. He say, I was a hidden treasure, and I wanted, by love, to be discovered, so I created my creatures. Okay, the creator wanted to be known as a treasure, so he created his own creature. This is very beautiful, okay? So it replied a little bit that the egregores have a certain consciousness which is stimulated, activated, reinforced, developed, and so on through humans' emotions, might be. And last point, this is what I like to say as well, God experiences himself through us. The living evolves by living as a creator, as the creator through his creatures in an active and passive way. Let's say scriptwriter and co-actor, both in ambivalent way. It is the divine co-creation. A word to a wise, I invite you to think about that. I hope these all elements will help you to shape the master key of consciousness, of love, of whatever you want. As you know, all the roads lead to Rome and to the Dome and to home. Thank you for your attention and see you very soon.